Greetings, peace be with you. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 7 laws of the universe according to the Hermetic philosophy as explained in the KYBALION, right? Now, the KYBALION was written by the 3 initiates, right? This is an anonymous group of people, and it was thought of to actually express the teachings of Hermes, right? Of Hermeticism. Now, Hermes is a character that has been showing up in a bunch of different ancient civilizations. He has been showing up in ancient Egypt as Thoth, who is the god of wisdom, right? He showed up in ancient Greece as Hermes, who was the herald of the gods, who was the guider of souls, right? So that's a whole different rabbit hole that we can go down. But the ideas in the KYBALION are meant to actually capture his teachings, apparently, right? I don't know if they did. I don't know if Hermes actually existed, if he was actually a herald, or what the case is. I don't know what the situation is with that rabbit hole, because it goes deep, right? But the ideas in the KYBALION are truly something that capture the essence of a lot of other ideas that I've also come across in a bunch of different spiritual literature and studying science and physics. And the way that the universe works is captured in these 7 laws right here, which I will be diving into. Okay, now this will be a 7-part video series, which we're going to be diving into each law in separate. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that, because I'm going to be releasing separate videos on each one of these laws and how to actually apply them. But in this video, like I said, I'm going to be going over a brief summary of this big picture over here, right? So the first law is the law of mentalism, right? This basically says that the universe is in the mind, right? So what does this even mean? Look, even when they have run the study in quantum physics and quantum dynamics to see like what came first, right? Was it matter or was it energy? And what they found is that in order for matter to exist, in order for anything to exist, there has to be something in order to observe it into existence, right? You can look up the double slit experiment in quantum physics, which is really something that the quantum physicists can't even explain to this point, and it basically shows how the observation affects the reality, right? Without the observation, the matter, which is the photon, which is the particle of matter, just exists in a wave of endless possibilities, right? But only when that observation takes place does that actually manifest into matter, right? So everything, the universe, is in your own mind, and this is an idea that I deeply resonate with and also seek to embody more and more in my life, because it's like my experience takes place within my own nervous system, right? If I meet someone, I am experiencing them based on my own perception, which is within my own nervous system, right? If someone touches my skin right now, it's not like they're touching my skin and I feel that. It's like that's a stimulus, which is the skin, and then picks it up and then sends it to my brain. And again, it's an experience within my own nervous system, right? And once we understand that our experience is dictated by our own inner world, that is when we can begin actually using these laws and implementing them to change our inner world, so that the outer world changes as a natural byproduct of that. Okay, so understanding that the universe is mental, right? Even then, the start of the universe, it was like, what came first? Was it the universe, or was it something that observed it into existence, right? Because when we look at the leading cosmological model, which is the Big Bang, it's like, okay, there was a single speck which ended up rotating at such a high speed that it eventually just expanded, and now it's expanding into the entire universe. So even before there was something that existed, there was something in order to observe it into existence, right? It's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, but the reality is that the chicken came first, because without the chicken there was no egg, right? I think they solved it, right? Something like that. But principle of mentalism, right? Now, law number 2 is the law of correspondence, right? As above, so below. As below, so above, right? So this law basically explains that there is harmony between the different planes of existence, right? Now, the planes of existence, I'm going to be diving deeper into it when I go over the video on this law. But it's basically like there is a harmony between the situations that are taking place on the level of mental, physical, and spiritual planes of existence, right? There is a certain harmony, there is a certain way that things are playing out according to a certain amount of correspondence to certain amount of laws, right? So when we think that something is out of the ordinary, when we think that something is out of our realm of understanding, that is only because we don't understand the laws that are creating that situation in the first place, right? Now, the third law is the law of vibration, right? That everything is constantly moving, everything is always in motion, right? And the extent of that vibration determines the manifestation of that material thing, right? Now, whether that thing manifests as material, whether it manifests as mental, whether it manifests as spiritual, depends on the rate of vibration, right? If something is at a very, very high vibration, then it is actually not even manifesting as matter, it's just manifesting as pure energy, as spirit energy, right? And everything is constantly at that vibration. And this is an extremely important principle, because once we understand that we ourselves have a vibration that is created by our thoughts, our words, our behaviors, right? And whether that vibration is in alignment with what we seek to create, that is where the gap comes in, right? Because if our vibration is not in alignment with what we want, what we seek to create, then we will be unable to do so, and we'll be like just victims of our environment, rather than understanding that we can actually raise our vibration to go on and begin creating a life that we love, right? So everything is always in motion, right? Whether it's manifesting as this phone that I'm shooting this video on right now, whether it's manifesting as this table that is right next to me over here, it depends on the extent of the vibration of those atoms, right? Atoms create every single particle in this universe, and the rate at which they vibrate determines what is actually manifested, right? Whether it's matter, whether it's energy, whether it is something physical, whether it's something mental, is determined by the vibration. And we ourselves also have a vibration, which is determined by, like I said, our thoughts, our words, and our behaviors, right? So the fourth law is the law of polarity, right? Everything has its opposite pole: north, south, left, right, hot, cold. And the law of polarity basically explains that the opposites are actually the same thing expressed in different degrees, right? So good is the same thing as evil, but it is a different degree of that same center point which we come to, right? So Hermeticists were all about transmuting this energy, right? So they would understand that if there is something that's very, very dark, then they can actually transmute that into creating a lot of light, right? So understand that everything is dual, right? That is the realm that we live in, the realm of duality. Without the darkness, there is no light, right? Because if light was the only thing that there was, then we wouldn't have a name for it, right? It would just be that we would not know what it is, right? Just same way, like the best way I can explain it is like a fish is in water, right? It doesn't know that there's water. Someone said that, I don't know who discovered water, but it definitely was not fish, right? Because the fish, it only knows the water. In the same way, if light was the only thing that there was, then we wouldn't know what it was. And the only way we can experience the light, the only way we can experience the good, the only way we can experience the joy, the high emotions, is by experiencing those lower emotions, right? The only way we can experience who we really are is by experiencing who we are not, right? Sometimes you have to go to the other end of the extreme to find the harmony again, then you go to the other end. But there is always this understanding that everything is dual, everything has its pole, everything has its opposite, and opposites are actually not different, they're actually different degrees of that same essence, right? Now, law number 5 is the law of rhythm, right? Everything has its highs, everything has its lows, everything has, the high tide has its low tide, the pendulum swings on each side, and the movement of it to the right direction creates a space for it to go to the other direction, right? So understanding everything has a rhythm, right? The day has a rhythm, you have the rhythm which is in alignment with the day, and your life has a rhythm, there's seasons of your life, right? The earth has its rhythms, and really getting an understanding of the rhythms that are taking place so that we can align ourselves with them. And the more in alignment we are with the rhythm, the more consistent and predictable we can actually show up in our lives, right? Because when our lives are out of rhythm, when we think that it's always going to be up, then we get disappointed when it goes down. If we think that it's always going to be down, then we get depressed because we think it's always going to be down, right? But there is a wave to life, and understanding that everything is manifesting as a rhythm, not only the day, but not only your life, but everything has a rhythm, and once we can actually understand these rhythms, then we can go ahead and, like I said, bring ourselves into alignment with them. Okay, now law number 6, I've written it over here as the law of karma, and it is simply the law of cause and effect, right? Every cause has its effect, and every effect is caused by something else, right? So this is an extremely important law. Now, in the Hindu philosophy, based on what I've studied, the word karma in Sanskrit literally means action, right? So for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, is what Isaac Newton said, right? Now, every reaction then sets the stage for the next action, and on it goes. Now, the reason this actually messes a lot of people up, it messed me up for a long time when I thought I was the victim in life. I was in a situation where I thought that I didn't deserve this, that I was basically at the effect of the events in my environment, and I thought that I was powerless to actually change them. But that is because I couldn't separate the cause from the effect, right? Because you look at your life right now, your bank account, you look at your relationships, you look at your health, you look at every aspect of your life. That is the result of not what you did today, not a result of what you did yesterday. It is a result of something that started a long time ago, and then it led up to where you are right now. And the reason that a lot of us get trapped into that victim mentality is because we don't know what that thing is that led us to where we are. But once we understand the law of karma, which is basically stating that it comes into our life as an educated force, right? According to the Hindu philosophy, it comes into our life as an educated force to explain to us and really reveal to us whether we are walking our authentic path and purpose in our life, right? Our dharma. And when we are not on our path and purpose, then karma comes in to actually swing us back in that direction. But understand that every cause has its effect. And again, in the Hindu philosophy, they write that the seeds of karma are planted in the mind, right? So there might be something that was planted a long, long time ago that is manifesting right now. And it's similar to the fact that, there's a seed that drops in between the gap of a sidewalk, right? Nothing of it. It's just a seed that dropped there. But eventually that seed grows into a full-blown oak tree, and it destroys the sidewalk, and it's impossible to get rid of it because it has become this whole huge tree, right? In the same way, if you have a cycle and pattern of negative thinking, in the beginning it might not be that intense, right? It's something that you get an adrenaline rush out of because you're like fearful and you're like this negative thinking, but eventually it gets to the point where it just becomes a whole tree of negative thinking, and it becomes very, very difficult to actually remove it. So the sooner we can catch ourselves in that situation, the better we will be in actually dealing with it, right? So like I said, I'm going to be diving into each of these laws coming up in video series that I'm going to be uploading later. And this is just an overview of the law so that you have an understanding of how these patterns have actually been repeating, how you might have come across them in other amounts of your studies as well, and understanding how to actually use these laws and implement them and align with them so that we can achieve the goal of consciously creating a life that we love, right? So the final law is law number 7, which is the law of gender, right? So this is really about understanding that, on the level of physicality, we manifest as different genders, right? Male, female, but that is not the same thing as masculine and feminine, right? We have to understand that even as a male, right, who's trying to be all alpha, trying to increase my testosterone levels, there is an aspect of my own femininity, right? And when that is lost touch of, that is when we are not able to experience ourselves in our own wholeness, right? Because there is a masculine and feminine aspect to everything, right? Not only us, but everything. And once we can actually begin to develop an awareness around that, then we can actually begin making the strides towards expressing the whole version of ourselves rather than expressing one side at the effect of the other, right? Because we have these narratives in society like, okay, yeah, men, they don't express themselves emotionally. I mean, these are like the common stuff, right? Like, oh, men don't cry, right? Big girls don't cry. Like, whatever it is, there are these certain narratives which hold us back from actually experiencing both sides of us, right? Like, oh, only guys do that, oh, only girls do that. But there's different aspects of our own expression, of our own state of being, and only when we actually integrate them can we experience the whole side of ourselves, and only then can we actually go on to develop deep relationships with others rather than coming into it trying to get something, right? Because when you're whole, when you understand and integrate and harmonize all the aspects of who you are, then you feel like you're enough. then you don't feel like there's anything to take from someone, because a lot of these toxic relationships end up starting when two people are coming into it to get something. It's like two parasites coming together, and then it just gets worse and worse. It's a downward spiral, and I'm speaking from experience over here, but it's important to understand the law of gender, right? So it's supposed to be a quick overview. I don't know how long it went. I rambled on for a bit, but I hope they got value from it. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming videos on each one of these laws. We're going to be going deeper into each one of them. But like I said, just a quick overview for you on the 7 laws of the universe. Okay, leave a comment below letting me know your #1 takeaway from this video. And like I said, I hope you got value from it, and I will see you in the next one.